Okay, welcome everybody. Thank you so much for joining us. I am so excited to have my very good friend Jess here. Jess and I spend many a trade show
Mhm.
chatting and getting together we kind of nerd out over data and analytics and statistics. She's one of my favorite people to talk with. And I love hearing her talk about dog training and enrichment specifically. She has such an incredible mind and understanding of dog behavior, and she taught me about positive and negative consequences, which were totally different from what I understood. Anyway, I love talking with her. Any conversation I have with her is enlightening and engaging, and I'm so excited to share her with you today. So, without further ado, this is Jess Okon. She's with Blue Nine Pet Products, and I'm so excited to listen to her talk today. So, welcome, Jess. Thank you so much.
Thank you for having me, Beth. And what a flattering introduction. You're going to just hype me up before all of my presentations from now on. And for everyone that's here, thank you so much for joining us. I'm equally as excited to be here and chat, not just climbs, but let's talk Kuranda cots too, because I love and use them both. They're both in my living room. And so many people think that we're competition and we don't get along. And we're actually, like Beth said, like pretty good friends, and our products really complement each other. So I want to kind of deep dive with you guys a little bit about like the magic of the KLIMB and how I use it in my training. And full disclosure, I was a client of both Kuranda and Blue Nine before I came to work on the product side of the business. So I come from services. I ran doggy daycares. I've trained for a long time. I've groomed. I've kind of seen a little all aspects of our industry. And it's really cool for me to get to hang out at trade shows now and not only meet awesome people like Beth, but I'm sure a bunch of you that are joining us on the webinar today or watching it later if you're looking at the recording. So I guess we can kind of dive in here. And I saw Beth's chat propped up. If you have questions, feel free to interrupt me. I love webinars to be more of a conversation versus me like lecturing at you. So let's talk about it and all things training and KLIMB. Oh, I guess sharing my screen would help first. Let's do that. All right, so here's my little bit of my intro here, which Beth did a really great job. So I'm going to just skip through that one. That's our demo dog Cork. For anyone who's wondering, you may have met him at a trade show. If not, you've definitely met my poodle Vino. We always have a dog in tow. There's baby Vino on the climb.
He's so small.
He
Oh my
was so
God.
small. I have to send you, I'll send it to everybody. I have pictures of when he was a puppy next to wine bottles as he would get bigger.
Oh, Vino likes to come to our trade shows, so I always love it when I get to see Vino too.
Yeah, he's a happy boy. So a couple features and safety tips about the KLIMB, I guess, is well, the KLIMB came onto market a little over 10 years ago now. It was the first not elevated platform because obviously cots are elevated platforms, but the first 12-inch elevated platform specifically designed for training for animal training and enrichment. So whereas cots make really awesome places for rest and can be used as a place, the KLIMB was designed more with training in mind and a lot of versatility built in to accommodate whatever kind of training we're doing with our dogs. I often ask people what they're training or what they're working on with a dog and can usually find a way to incorporate the KLIMB in their training that's going to facilitate the dog having faster learning and a decreased level of distractions. And what I mean by that is think back to the circus days where they put all the lions, tigers, and bears. They were all up on like wine barrels, right? So, like elevated platforms. And that's because the science of elevation actually hones into the dog's mindset. And we're putting them in a frame of mind to learn. Their feet have a job to do. So they're kind of stationary. They're not wandering around. They're not at the end of their 6 foot leash. They're focused. They're doing a job already, which assists them in maintaining that focus. So that's a little bit about the history of the KLIMB. It was brought to our owner's attention by a DNR officer that was looking for a portable training platform for his dog. So the magic of the KLIMB was born. They are individually weight rated to hold well over 500 pounds. We have had that tested in a load bearing test and things like that, and they're super durable. They're UV stabilized, so what that means is you can leave it outside all year long, regardless of the elements, and it's not going to get brittle. It's not going to crack. It's not going to deteriorate at all over time. They also lock and stack together. So if you're not familiar with the KLIMBs, they have a recessed area that you can see on the front of the KLIMB there where like the logo is. And then if you look on the like right hand side of that KLIMB, there's like a handle that sticks out. So multiple KLIMBs together act a little bit like a Lego set where you can connect them, you can stack them, you can make endless configurations around them. So think of it as almost like modular daycare equipment for those of you that might have a puppy playground or dog daycare. So you can have your playground equipment and your pyramids and your tunnels all built during the day. And then your same pieces of equipment break down and they become your training spots for group classes or for other services in the evening. All the KLIMBs do have a paw grip material built in, so there's definitely some traction built right into the platform itself. And of course, we do have a ton of accessories if you need some extra grip and stuff. They also float, which I think is a really fun fact. It was not an intended use. However, it's been really critical in teaching a lot of dogs how to swim. And we can talk a lot more about dock diving and things like that and how we use the KLIMBs when it comes to sports. And then there's the adjustable height and stability. So without any legs installed, you have a 4-inch platform. With our short legs installed, you have a 6-inch platform. And with the standard legs, you have a total of 12 inches off the ground. So going back a little bit to that science of elevation, when we're teaching something like a long down stay and our dogs are on just like a fleece bed on the floor, right? No elevation, nothing's happening. Their feet are on the same level as the floor. And for a lot of dogs, when they stand up and they continue walking, there's not an obvious enough difference in that down to breaking the stay for the dog to really understand what is intended there. So we move to something like a cot or a KLIMB, the dog's elevation actually makes it a much clearer choice point for the dog to understand when they take that step down or walk off of their cot. Like, oh, I have to actually move off of this thing and then I'm breaking my stay versus my feet are already on the ground and I can keep walking. So that little bit of like dog logic there doesn't always translate, which is where elevation really helps. And then the adjustable heights and stability, I want to touch on that. Instability training is something that we use a lot when we're building confidence in our dogs, getting them used to working on unstable surfaces. Think about a lot of our service dogs, our working dogs, our therapy dogs, or like Vino that goes to trade shows everywhere. I really want them to be confident and comfortable on any type of surface they come to. So I can make the KLIMB a wobble board, or I can loosen the legs a little bit so there's a little like teeteriness, obviously with safety and control in mind, but allowing the dog to understand how to find the stillness in the product and in their body, as well as just overcome the scaries of things that might be moving under their feet. We move on here. And then we go into more instability training. We have the Propel inflatable platform. So this product is really the perfect piece of equipment if we're getting into like higher level conditioning and body awareness for our dogs. Think again, our sport dogs, our military working dogs, our service dogs, any dog that has a real job, let's call it, of like, they're going to be using their bodies out in the world. We want to make sure they're conditioned for that job. Just like our athletes for major sporting events, they train throughout the year so that they can go play on the weekends. Our dog should be doing the same thing. It's also great for indoor training when weather elements don't allow us to do it because we can do a lot in a small space. So that instability and that air platform is just one of those really beautiful pieces of equipment where we can work with what looks like tricks, but we're actually working our dog's brain and their body as well. And then we have our balance harness. I'm just kind of going a quick overview of everything that Blue 9 has. The balance harness is a front clip attachment harness. It is rated #1 8 years in a row by press like Whole Dog Journal, Business Insider, Reader's Digest. We continue getting accolades on our balance harness, and we're really, really proud of it. Not only because it allows dogs to maintain a full range of motion, but we have found that really the beginning of relationship building between pet parents and their pets is on a walk. So if we can teach our pet parents and our dogs to have really nice walks, then likely the dog's quality of life is going to be a lot better. That human's quality of life is going to be a lot better. And then there's that relationship that's being built between the leash. So that's one of the things that make me really proud of the balance harness is that we can really foster that relationship building between pets and their people. Where I like to use, oh, there's Vino, big Vino. Where I like to use KLIMBs is in group class engagement. So having stations is not only great for the dogs, but it's also great for the human management of group classes. I don't know how many of you out there are trainers or have run a group class before when you get those like beautiful green pet parents that have never owned a puppy before and they're walking in, the dogs are at the end of their leash and everybody's all over the place and nobody knows what's going on. It's a lot easier to manage that environment when I have a station set up for everyone to go to. So as students are coming in, I'll be like, hi, Jane and Fluffy, please go to the purple climb. And then, hi, Brian and Max, please go to the blue climb. And I can have that like people orientation set up a lot better within the class. And then getting the dogs all up on the platforms that you can see in the picture. I have Vino kind of in the center, and we did like a big ring around. I was teaching at a training academy this day. So like rows didn't really work, but we did a big circle and I was able to have Vino in the front and then all the dogs around were up on their climbs. Again, instead of being at the end of their 6 foot leash, they had that focus to their handler and were much more engaged with the handler on the other side of the leash instead of trying to engage with me as the teacher. Because sometimes center of attention, right? I've got the cookies, I've got the clicks, I've got the happy high pitched voices. The dogs are like, oh, I want to go work with her. But having the human and the climb paired together kept the dog's engagement there. As well as a ton of like games that we get to play in group classes. I love doing like climb tic-tac-toe or cot tic-tac-toe, whichever way that we can set up a grid of 9 and then I will make 2 teams and then have like one handler and their dog pick a square and then we kind of just play tic-tac-toe. And then as the dogs master kind of the basics, then we say, okay, your dog can't break their stay or they're down or whatever. And then if they break it, then they're eliminated in that spot is open again. So it's a really fun way to kind of gamify group classes as well, and break the monotony of just kind of like talking at people through group classes. I've also found that having stations in a defined space also keeps the human in a working mindset versus like, okay, we're working on a sit right now. And you might be going around talking to everybody that's working on their sit, and the first person has it mastered and their dog is there and they're just like on their phone or like waiting for the next thing to do instead of staying in that working mindset and asking their dogs maybe for a couple different behaviors, right? So getting the dog off the climb, getting them back on it. Can they take a step back and their dog keep that stay? So really keeping everybody engaged, everybody working. We've again are able to get faster training results when we have everybody in that engaged mindset ready to learn. I lost my little chat box. Do we have any questions that popped up that I might be missing? I feel like I go a little fast sometimes.
No questions yet. I'll let you know.
Cool, thank you. I love PowerPoints because they keep me on track, but I so often talk ahead of them. So kind of just like I was saying, being able to limit a dog's physical space is going to decrease their access to distractions, concentrate on the handler better, and overall significantly speed up that training. The other kind of like magic things that I found about the climbs, and if you're doing any board and trains or again, group classes, things like that, is including them in the cost of your programs or whatever, include everything, right? Up the cost of your programs because products are the way to profits, people. Beth and I can teach you about that all day. Including the cost of your products at wholesale like MSRP in your programs and sending one home with everybody. And the reason that we want to do this is for that owner compliance, right? You're setting the human learner up for success now by sending them home with all their school equipment. It really is that simple. For the human, when they take the dog home, we all know as trainers that the consistency is the magic of dog training. So if the dog is getting consistent repetitions while they're with me for a 3-week board and train, and then I send them home and the actual pet parents aren't maintaining those behaviors or expecting the same level of criteria and consistency, then the training all falls apart. And then they're like, you're a bad dog trainer. My dog didn't learn. And then I come over and do a lesson and the dog is perfect for me, but not for them. And it's because now we have like a reinforcement history. We got to talk. Being a dog trainer is almost like being a therapist half the time. We get to like control the human learners as well. So setting them up for success, sending everyone home with a climb. The dogs already have kind of a reinforcement history on that platform, meaning all good things have happened in the climb in the 3 weeks that the dog was on a board and train. And now when we take that climb kind of anywhere, the dog is going to have a general idea of like, oh, I should stand on this thing and sit quietly because they're going to tell me to do something or something is going to happen next. So we're using the climb as kind of like a proofing for behavior. So I see this a lot in service dog training. And again, our military and working dogs, we do a ton with them. Well, they will take the climbs out in the field, out in the real world, and either have it under a table or have it under a desk somewhere in order for the dog to understand and prove the behaviors that they've been working on.
Just, do you mind talking a little bit more about including climbs in with like your customer package? Either
Yeah.
do you offer like volume discounts for the professionals purchasing and then they can maybe make a little bit of profit on the product that they sell to their client? Or do you have an affiliate program if they don't want to stock your product on site?
Yeah, absolutely great question. We absolutely have a wholesale program. We work on kind of a tiered model, so we have a really low initial stocking order of only 400 bucks, which is really only like a couple of units. And then our your account grows on itself. So basically, as you continue to order throughout your time, however long it takes, when you reach like dollar increment benchmarks, your discounts increase. So between 400 and $1,000 initial spend, you get 25% off. Past that thousand, you get 35% off. And past, I think it's like account total of 4,000. It's 45% off of retail pricing. So it's pretty substantial discounts there so that you guys, as the business owners, are able to buy in and have that inventory available, have some available for use, and then be able to send some home with everyone. And the way that I teach my clients to incorporate products, whatever products that you're using in your programs is with your current cost of your time and services, right? So I'm just going to use easy numbers here. Don't quote me on this. Do your market research for what your area can hold. Let's say you have a 3-week board and train and it's $2,500. That's just the cost of services and time, right? So the training that goes into it. Now, if I'm going to be sending the dog home with a climb, a leash, a cot, whatever balance harness, treats, training, all the things. My package went from $2,500 to $3,000. And now everyone's like, oh, that's a really big jump. And I'm like, but is it really? Because they're going to turn around and buy everything that I just told them to go buy in order to have a successful life with their dogs. So why not buy it from the trainer directly? And then that way you guys you're adding an additional 250 bucks. Let's just maybe, $200 in profit right off of that without having to do much. And I know you're like, oh, that doesn't seem like a lot of money. And we can get deeper into the math if you really want to. But that over time, if you're training 10 dogs and you send everyone home with products, 200 bucks times 10 dogs is $2,000 additional in 3 weeks
Well, not
without
only
doing
that,
any
but
extra work.
also if you're including products that will increase the dog's odds of success when they get home, that's a huge investment because then that customer is going to be over the moon with how well the training went and continue to go after the dog was, finished with the training with the professional. So then they're going to be way more likely to talk about you and your program and recommend them to other people.
Yeah, I would absolutely agree with that. It's all of that long-term marketing, that's word of mouth, that is the most valuable marketing you guys could ever do. And having the dogs set up for success once they leave you is the easy part. It's the humans that really need the work. So if you have the products and the tools to say, okay, human, here's what you need. Put your climb, put your cot by the front door, and every time the doorbell rings, guess where your dog is going to go? It's going to go to its place versus jumping on your guest, trying to run out the door. That are those little parts of training that I think are really magical. I call it practical training. Excuse me. I'm not a flashy trick dog trainer. Like that's not who I am as a trainer because I'm so focused on like, well, I used to raise service dog puppies. So that's a big part of why I'm not a flashy trick trainer is because it's the practical life lessons, right? So if I'm coming into a place, I don't want my dogs jumping all over me. So they're going to go stand on their climb or they're going to go hang out on their cot. Like one of my favorite uses for my Kuranda cot actually is when I'm mopping my house. That's where my dogs are hanging out while the mop is out. So it's like we've worked on it so much, and I know that my expectations are really high and I enforce way too much with my dogs. The mop bucket comes out. I don't even have to cue my dogs anymore. They're like, oh, I know what this means. I'm gonna go hang out on my cot. And I might give them a chew or a bully stick or something to like keep them there and keep them relaxed. Now, here's what changes a little bit. When I'm cooking, I expect my dogs on their climbs. So it's a different mindset that I'm working with here. And the reason that I say that is because mopping is going to take me a while, right? So, like, I want my dog to be in a really relaxed down stay and likely fall asleep because it's going to take me an hour and a half to mop my whole house. So, that's where, like, in my personal home, I send them to their cot because they can lay down together. They're super comfortable, even though we have the beds on the climbs and all of that. But I'm asking for a different mindset for my dog versus I have two climbs in my kitchen and I'm cooking. I want my dogs on my climbs because I want them focused at that point. I want them working. I'm using the distractions of the kitchen and me like opening the stove and baking grease and whatever it is that I'm cooking to kind of like work on that impulse control with my dogs. So I want that increased elevation because I'm adding higher distractions, right? So bacon is very distracting for a dog and it's really critical for them to stay out of the kitchen while I'm cooking bacon because I don't want like hot grease falling on them. So my expectation is that they're on their climbs ready to work and they're getting rewarded, they're getting treats. Like it's a training process in the moment, but having the equipment in your house allows training to become part of your everyday versus, oh, I need to put an hour aside for training. I think this is something that you and I talked about last time we were together, Beth, with your new dog was like, how do you incorporate more impulse control and training like throughout your day versus just like setting aside the time? And I think having the equipment around the house or even having like cookie jars, like kibble jars around the house in order to be able to reward your dog when needed when they're doing things that they like is really those critical steps. And that's where products can make that easy for the humans.
And so many of the products that you're using can be turned into profit centers, even if it's just an affiliate link. So, like, and a lot of that's passive income. So you can either, provide the product and then make a profit on that resale, which is essentially what you're doing. Or you can just recommend products to your customers and say, these are the ones that will set your pet up for success. And if you use this link, then you get a discount and we get a commission or even if you don't want to reveal that to them. It's a really, uninvolved way to earn 10, 15, 20% commission on products that they're likely to buy anyway because they saw you use them.
Yeah. And just that hits directly, it hits your bottom line.
Yeah.
And that's you guys being able to take a couple days off a year or a vacation or send your kid to Little League, whatever it is that you like want to make some extra revenue with. Like I find myself reminding my training clients, not people that I train, trainers that I train, that you're a for-profit business and it's okay to want to make some money off of stuff and like our bleeding hearts. That's why so many of us go into the dog world. And let's have some smart business skills behind it too.
Yeah. Sorry to derail you. Thank you for that.
No, it's good question. Kind of talked about some classroom management, but this is a fun little recall video. I love this little chunky little dachshund. He just cracks me up. He knows it's a test. He's like, I am not breaking this day. Yeah. He's a good little chunkster. So just kind of some examples of like how the climbs can really help the dogs out. And what I like about our products is that versatile height. So with a stubby leg dachshund, I probably would have never put 12 inches on it, and they'd probably always stay in that 4 to 6 inch range. But then I can start to fade that platform. So one of the things that I use my traction mat for is I'll have it on the top of the climb. I might be working on like send outs, right? So the dog is next to me and I want the dog to go hit its mark. And then eventually I need to remove the platform. So this is what we see a lot of like our movie dogs, right? So our set work acting dogs or like search and rescue, they do this a lot too, is send them out to a spot. And then I need to remove that platform, but I still need the dog to know where he needs to go. So I can gradually reduce the height of the platform and then just transition directly to our traction mat, which is just like a rubber loose kind of thing that then I can put on the ground. So it really helps the dog understand what is expected of them and then not become reliant on that piece of equipment or on that tool. They can still get the end result while we fade that platform out. Because that's another thing that we hear it a lot with cookies, right? Like, I don't always want to take treats to feed my dog. okay, well then you need to build some like delayed gratification expectations in your dog so that they trust you, so that you know they're going to get that like jackpot treat out in the world. So when I walk Vino, I am not always feeding him, but he knows that we're going to get like we have enough training and trust built in that that delayed gratification is there. So I can reward him with praise, pets, love, and then eventually give him his big back jackpot at the end of the day. Because if I was feeding him all day at a 12-hour trade show, like he'd be 400 pounds as a, a thin poodle. I think I snack more at trade shows, honestly, than Beano does. um, Other cool things about the KLIMB is that there's no real need to change any of your existing curriculum or training programs, right? So if you already have programs existing, or if you're a dog daycare boarding facility, I don't want to just single out our trainers here, but you don't really have to make any big changes to your operations. You just add this piece of equipment in, whether it's a KLIMB, whether it's the propels, whether it's a Kuranda cot. There's so many like uses for them. So let me speak to like my pet boarding and daycare friends here for a second. The off uses of the KLIMB around facility operations. One of my favorite uses is a leashing station. So think about where your dogs are when you're removing personal leashes and collars to put on your facility leashes and collars. Tends to be a little crazy. The dogs tend to be like wiggly and jumpy and all over the place. But if we can get the dog up on a platform, feet quiet down a little bit, easier for your kennel tech or your handler, whoever it is, to like unleash the dog, get personal belongings off, and get your like facility set on. Um, and just keeping the dog more stationary. Or if you have long hallways where dogs have to pass, and you might have some reactive dogs, I like to put KLIMBs on opposite corners so that traffic control. Basically, dogs don't have to pass each other if they don't need to. Same thing in your reception. Think of your check-in or your lobby area for whatever kind of facility you have. Even if you have a retail store only, having stations for dogs to be within that area is not only going to help prevent some leg lifts on those bottom hanging products that happens very often, but also allows the human to be more focused to your employee, right? So I think of my bottlenecks in boarding facilities is always check in and check out. The human has to tell so much information to your receptionist, relaying food instructions, medication instructions, all of that stuff. And so often they're distracted by what their dog is doing, making it difficult to get that information cohesively, making it take 10 times longer because they're like, oh, Fluffy, what are you doing down here? Oh, yeah, I think he needed a cup and a half a day, whatever. Oh, no, don't pee on that. Don't steal that bone. Oh, yeah, of course. Yeah, give him this water, or I brought bottled Evian water for my dog. Like, there's things that just get missed in translation when they're distracted. So if the dog is focused, then the human can focus. Uh, yes, I kind of got off on a little bit of a tangent there, but it's all those like helpful uses of KLIMBs around the facilities that really make their versatility shine. Service dog training, how we use it, confidence building, like I mentioned, proofing behaviors out in public, a lot of impulse control and task training. One of Vino's tasks when he's out in the world is like hitting the handicap open the door buttons for me. And I taught him that behavior. Ultimately, the core of it, the foundation of it, was teaching him to get his 2 feet on top of a climb, and then 2 feet on top of 2 climbs, right? So he's standing now, he's kind of tall. So 2 feet off the ground and his paws are up. And then I was able to get him confident to pushing a button at that height. But I had to teach him to stand on his back front legs first. So a lot of ways of, like I said, of what are you working on your dog with now? Let's find a use for the climb. And there's one of my favorite things that trade shows to do is because like it exercises my creative brain of like, ooh, how can we apply that? Oh, here we go. Let's try this. And so often people will go home and be like, it worked. And I'm like, I know. I've been doing this a while. Search and rescue. This is a cool video. I was talking about directionals. So they're sending their dog out to a rubble pile with some impulse control. So the dog has to go from platform to platform before it's released to go out into the rubble pile to find its toy. And again, not only is it important for the dog to have that impulse control, but it's a safety measure at these points also. So let's say perhaps there was some slippy, slidey gravel and rubble. They wouldn't want to send the dog out in the middle of a rock slide, so they'd hold it on its climb for the impulse control. And then I would have made this a little bit easier for the dog to bring that toy directly to hand if the handler was standing next to the climb instead of past it. Because what I saw was, I'm going to rewind this a little bit so you guys can see it too. is right about here. The dog thinks about going to the platform and then it kind of like celebrates around and then brings the time. It's really short, but I'm like, we could have made that faster and more precise if the human was standing next to the climb and the finish criteria was come to your platform. Um, Trigger warning, this is live fire practice with one of our police and military trainers. So it might be a little boomy. I also love how squeaky this police officer gets with his big German Shepherd. It makes me so happy. So obviously where the dog is in relation to the officer is really important in things like this. You don't want your dog to be out in front of you if you have to pull your weapon. So having the dog be stationary, understand where its body is, and the officer being able to understand how he can move around his dog and keep everybody safe is super important. And it's just one of those moments where, again, it's just a place, it's just a spot for the dogs to be. But in this situation, it's a kind of a critical life-saving spot for the dog. Cooperative care and husbandry. This is my jam, guys. This is my history. As a groomer, starting as a groomer. So I love to stock the climbs for outdoor bathing stations, especially when it's warm here in the summer here in Iowa, or when I was living in South Florida all year long. So again, the dogs have a reinforcement history on the climb, so it makes bathing while they're on top of them a little bit more cooperative from the dogs, I guess we'll say. I also really like using them as grooming table alternatives if a dog already has aversion to a grooming table. So I was talking to our friends at Paragon a couple weeks ago. We have a webinar coming up with them too, specifically on getting dogs off of grooming tables and onto climbs if we have dogs that are reactive, scared, nervous, shut down, whatever. Because a lot of times the table itself is the precursor to the dog's trauma. So we're trying to get them off of the grooming tables and onto climbs that is a much more stable surface, and they have that reinforcement history built in so that we can have more cooperative and successful grooming times, especially with all of our doodles and poodles in the world. We're just playing like some bucket game stuff here. I've worked a lot on cooperative care with Vino as a poodle. We spent a lot of time. And then conditioning and body awareness. And I threw in a fun video of me at the gym using the climb because I trust the climbs more than I trust most gym equipment. And you can see the variation of the Irish Wolfhound using it to my little 10-pound Pomeranian. We're all working on different things here, myself included. But what's fun about the climbs and the propels is we can get really targeted workouts just like you can if you were going to the gym yourself. So elevating the dog's front end, I'm shifting the dog to their rear, or the weight to their rear, meaning I'm targeting their hips, their muscles, or their quads, their rear end muscles. If I elevate their back feet, so if their dog's back feet were on top of their climbs and their front feet were on the floor, shifting all of that weight to their shoulders, targeting arms, doing like puppy push-ups, things like that. So we get really precise workouts for our dogs based off of how their body is standing and positioned. And again, that weight rated to hold well over 500 pounds. I felt a lot more stable using the climb instead of using one of the box jumps at the gym. And at 12 inches, it was a perfect height for my very small 5'2". So it's a really versatile piece of equipment that I find myself using more for myself than for the dogs half the time. I think. Oh, and so here we're getting into like a couple sports and just some fun stuff. I like using the corners of the climbs as like a really precise scent board when we're doing, foundation search and rescue or scent detection kind of stuff, or just for fun for your pet parents that want something more to do. Drop an odor in the corner of the climbs, teach your dogs to find it, reward them when they are precise. I love nose work, and I love using the climbs for nose work. Here's a little bit about where you can learn more about us. You can always reach out. I know Beth was going to drop our contact information on there, but you are welcome to save this from there as well. And I think this will take you to our wholesale page if I scan that. Now I can't remember. I'm checking. Oh, actually, it's just going to tell you how it will improve your group classes. So not our wholesale information, but you can find everything on our website. And you can always reach out to me. You can find me at our customer service email address.
Okay. Thank you, Jess.
Thank
Does
you.
anybody have any questions before we part ways here? No, I don't see any questions, but they have your contact info if you want to, if they want to reach out about something specific to them or their business. Um, Oh, the next webinar, it's on the webinar series. The next webinar is another financing webinar that's going to be on August 28th, and you'll get emails about that. Our first webinar was financing, and that one was very popular. There were a lot of questions. The next one will be with Live Oak Bank. Claire's a wonderful friend of mine and Jess's.
Yeah.
Um, I'll have Jess's contact info on the webinar page. The webinar will get recorded and posted and emailed. If there's anything else that anybody needs, feel free to reach out to either myself or Jess. And thanks a lot, Jess. That was really fun.
Thanks for having me, and thank you guys all for being here.
Yep, awesome. All right. Bye, everyone.
Bye.